I wasn't meant to make another video today because I basically just put one out, but something has just happened that I couldn't not make a video about. Just a few hours ago, the UK's Met Office issued just its second ever extreme heat red warning. And this is for temperatures that are widely expected to get into the high 30s and possibly even 40 degrees Celsius in the UK. Now, this is part of a heat wave that is gripping France, gripping central Western Europe, gripping the UK, and also plenty of other parts of Europe. So this video is going to be very off the cuff. The phrase quick and dirty springs to mind. I was actually at an event today looking at the 50th anniversary of the famous 1976 heat wave in the UK, which is often used as an example of climate has always been hot, we've always had heat waves. The organisers actually lifted the media embargo on that, so I can now talk about it because of that red extreme heat warning. So this is not something to turn our noses up about. A red warning from the UK Met Office is not something that happens very often. We often see them for storms or extreme weather that is usually more destructive in the winter, but we very rarely, in fact, we've only ever once seen it before in the context of extreme heat. So from the Met Office's website, a red warning means that dangerous weather is expected, and if you haven't already done so, you should take action now to keep yourself and others safe from the impact of the severe weather. It's very likely that there will be a risk to life, substantial disruption to travel, energy supplies, and possibly widespread damage to property and infrastructure. You should avoid travelling where possible and follow the advice of the emergency services and local authorities. And this warning lasts from Wednesday into Thursday, where temperatures where I'm in London are forecasted to reach 38, 39, possibly even 40 degrees Celsius. This red warning from the Met Office is also coming with an accompanying heat health warning, which is issued by the UK Health Security Agency, separate but similar. It means that there is a risk to life for all people, not just vulnerable groups. So people who have pre-existing health conditions, elderly, infants, people experiencing homelessness, people on certain types of prescription medication, people with disabilities. These groups, and many of us are in the vulnerable group, including myself, are affected more strongly by the impacts of extreme heat. But this health warning means that all groups can be impacted by this extreme heat. So this is not something to take lightly. The temperatures in the UK are widely forecasted to be in the middle to high 30 degrees range. And some have even predicted it might go up to 40 degrees. So the UK Met Office has kind of like revised its predicted temperatures for Wednesday up and down. I've seen it at 40 degrees for Greater London. There's definitely a non-negligible chance that it will reach that 40-degree threshold, which is inconceivable, would have been inconceivable even a decade ago. We've only ever seen that once before in 2022, and it was horrendous, and I do not wish to repeat the experience. Unfortunately, I may be forced to. But the 40-degree threshold is quite a symbolic number, and my apologies to my non-UK viewers, but this is different in the UK. It's much more humid. Muggy heat is much more dangerous because you are much less able to sweat and regulate your temperature. And that makes it a much more serious issue. The temperatures may or may not reach that 40 degrees, but they will certainly be breaking June's temperature records, which are 35.6. And they will certainly be in the high 30s. They will certainly be uncomfortable. And in fact, for some people, dangerous. Part of that is because we're going to see some tropical nights, and tropical nights are nights where the temperature does not drop below 20 degrees Celsius. And the reason that's dangerous is because in the daytime, you're suffering from heat stress. You may or may not be coping with it. You can kind of recover from it overnight if the temperature gets cool enough. But if it's still really hot, it's really hot and sticky particularly, so it's still very humid, you cannot really sweat enough and you can't really physiologically recover from the impact of the heat that you've sort of been stressed by in the day. You can't sort of rebalance your body's equilibrium to get you ready to go for the next day. So people are going to be much more fatigued from the heat, and also it's very unpleasant. You can't sleep, you're tossing and turning, sweating through all your sheets. Like, it's just not a nice time for anyone. Now, one measure that we use to talk about the combination of that like heat and humidity is the wet bulb temperature. And in fact, I just did a video a couple of weeks ago about the World Cup, and I talked a lot in that video about wet bulb temperature. So I'm just gonna, to save me repeating myself, I'm gonna just throw that footage in here. One measure that scientists and doctors use to determine the strain placed on the body by extreme heat is called wet bulb globe temperature. Rather than just using straight up air temperature, the wet bulb tells us about the combined impact of temperature, humidity, direct sunlight exposure, and air movement, or lack thereof. All of these affect how efficiently the body releases energy into the air by sweating, which is what regulates our temperature. Now, that high wet bulb temperature is what we're really worried about, because it means that this heat wave could be a lot more oppressive than previous ones. Certainly hotter than the one I made a video about in May, which would be up here somewhere if you want to check that one out. Accompanying that red warning from the Met Office, the Deputy Chief Forecaster has said that red warnings are reserved for the most severe events, and we're expecting severe and significant impacts from this heat wave, with health impacts likely for many, even beyond those who are normally more vulnerable to the heat. The last time the UK recorded temperatures this high was in July 2022, but on this occasion the heat is expected to be accompanied by high humidity. This warning also includes the impact on infrastructure like railways, like electricity, like transmission lines, like hospitals, like emergency services. There's going to be greater stress on our already extremely overburdened health services, on ambulances, on firefighters, on carers in all sorts of settings. And to be quite honest with you, I'm feeling a lot of dread about this one, because people will die. People died the last time this happened. People have died in that May heat wave that they didn't need to. We saw hundreds of deaths the last time in 2022 that temperatures got this high. And we saw just a few weeks ago teenagers dying by drowning when they jumped into cold water to cool down during the last heat wave. So this is a very real threat to life. It's quite terrifying. I mean, I've seen reports of 2 kids dying in a really hot car in France when they got locked in and they couldn't get them out. Like, this is not something that we should ignore. Extreme heat is already killing people, and we've already had a heat wave in the last month that broke records for the month. And now we're getting another one that's going to break records for this month. This is not normal, and I can't stress this enough. This is not something we should be seeing so regularly, so soon. And the question on everyone's lips is this related to climate change? And I think the resounding answer is very much yes. Climate change is making heat waves more frequent. Check. We've seen one in the last 3 to 4 weeks. It's making them hotter. Check. We very rarely get temperatures in the high 30s, let alone approaching 40. And it's making them last longer. Possibly check. We don't know yet. We don't know how long this is going to last, but it's already been an extended period of very high temperatures. So the number of days with temperatures above 32 degrees in the UK has trebled in the most recent decade compared to the 1960s. And those temperatures of 32 degrees in June have been made 100 times more likely by climate change, according to World Weather Attribution analysis. The 11 hottest years on record have been the last 11 years. And the extremes in the UK are warming much more quickly than the average temperatures. In fact, analysis of that last 40-degree heat wave in the UK in 22 showed that without climate change, temperatures of that level would have been extremely unlikely, pretty much never. But now the chances of exceeding 40 degrees have been increasing rapidly, and it's now 20 times higher than it was in the 60s. So we are now 20 times more likely to see a 40-degree temperature in the UK than we were just 60 odd years ago. And in 2025, the Met Office estimated a 50-50 chance of seeing a 40-degree day again in the next 12 years. So the last year they said that, which things are happening faster than we thought they were, pretty much across the board. And every heat wave in the world is now being made stronger and more likely because of human-caused climate change. Heating is provably accelerating. We are seeing a faster rate of warming now than we were even a few decades ago. Sea level rise is increasing and accelerating. Temperature rise is accelerating. You have only got to look at the news to see the increasing number of extreme events, to see evidence of how that acceleration is coming into play in terms of climate impacts, and it's affecting people already. It's causing people to lose their lives. It's causing people to lose their livelihoods. It's causing people to lose their property. And it's causing people illness, great distress, mental, physical problems. It's causing so much damage already. And this is just getting started. This is just the beginning. People often say that, of course, we've always had heat waves. You're just being snowflakes, this woke agenda. Climate has always changed. We've always had hot weather. We've always had hot summers. We have always had hot summers. We have always had extremes. Such is the nature of the weather. But because we are warming our climate, we are pushing up the average. But what we are also pushing up is the extremes. If you look at this graph, it looks a bit like a hat. The rim of the hat, the edges, the tails of the distribution, if we want to use statistical language, are the extremes, either the very cold extremes or the very hot extremes. Because we're moving the average, because we're sliding that hat along up towards the right, we are seeing fewer cold extremes and we are seeing more hot extremes. And those extreme hot events, we are not set up to cope with. The UK is not equipped to deal with this. We are not equipped in terms of our railway networks. We are not equipped in terms of our housing. I've had to turn off the dehumidifier and my fan over there, and I'm sweating. I've had this camera on for like 10 minutes. I'm very, very hot already. So you're welcome. But in the UK, we are just not adapted to this. We are not used to it. Our working days are not used to it. People work outside in this heat, they'll suffer. People who are working in places without air conditioning, like, I'm very lucky. I do a job where I'm my own boss. I do a job where I don't have to wear oppressive PPE. I don't have to work really hard like doing physical labor. And I suffer in this heat. People who have to do those jobs are likely to be in even higher risk. And that is just not something that we are equipped to cope with. And this is just the beginning. You know, things have changed a lot in the last 50 years, and in the next 50 years, they're going to change even more. I was at this event commemorating the 50 years since the record-breaking 1976 heat wave, which was at the time the longest and hottest heat wave, and in fact is when the temperature record that we're about to break this week was set. It was set in Cheltenham, 35.6 degrees Celsius, 1976, tying with 1957, I think it was. But that event it lives in the nation's memory. There were standpipes. There were, people had to, like, there was no water in people's homes. People had to queue to get water in the street from standpipes. It was really, really huge. They changed, like, the working day. People were adapting, the 3-day working week, all of this kind of stuff. But if something as unusual as the 1976 heatwave happened again now, it would be hotter. And in another 50 years, the forecast is going to be even hotter. The kind of event that is plausible as a heatwave in the 2050s is now reaching into the mid-40s. The mid-40 degrees Celsius that is horrendous. I do not want a world where the UK is that hot with any kind of regularity. And one of the other problems is that in that future world, we will see more of those tropical nights where temperatures don't drop below 20 degrees Celsius, especially when we're combining the heat and the humidity increases associated with climate change. You know, for every degree of climate heating, we see a 7% increase in the amount of humidity. And that means we're going to see more heat stress because there's more of those conditions which don't let your body recover from extreme heat. I'm kind of lost for words in some ways because this is going to become the new normal. And I hate using that phrase because it's overused. The word unprecedented, also overused. But unfortunately, we're running out of vocabulary for it. It is something we're going to have to get used to because it's going to happen more often whether we like it or not. And I just don't want to. I want to throw my toys out the pram. We didn't need to do this. We could have had climate action decades ago. But our leaders wouldn't listen and people won't take it seriously. And people are already dying and people are still not taking it seriously. So if a Met Office warning, red warning to life, doesn't really ram it home how dangerous the extreme heat can be, I don't know what will. And I mean this seriously, like, do look after yourselves, do look after your loved ones. Hell, even look after your not loved ones. Make sure you're staying hydrated, make sure you're staying cool. Don't work too hard, and definitely don't go for a run in the heat. Like, be sensible, because this is our new reality. This is something that's becoming increasingly common, and it's of course not limited to the UK. We're seeing this all across Europe. We're seeing this across North America. We're seeing across all continents. We're seeing really profound changes in our temperatures and in our weather patterns. Oh, and El Nino hasn't even really started yet. El Nino will only really start to get going this December, November time. Think about what next year is going to be like if this is this year. I'm going to leave you with that thought, because that doesn't necessarily bear thinking about right now in my heat-addled brain. So take care of yourselves, and I guess, I will see you next time. If you want to watch the video I made about the World Cup, which talks a lot about the combination of heat and humidity and why it's so dangerous, then it's over here. Stay safe.